The most highly anticipated day at the inquiry into the Iraq War so far. Former Prime Minister Tony Blair arrives to go up before the Chilcot inquiry.
The police have not allowed us to demonstrate outside the conference centre. They've pushed us back. They've got huge numbers of barriers and huge numbers of police to protect a man that many people in this country think is a war criminal.
Good morning. Morning. But this is what really changed my perception of risk, the calculus of risk for me. If those people, inspired by this religious fanaticism, could have killed 30,000, they would have. From his
But during the course of these discussions, do you think you gave him any commitments?
The only commitment I gave, and I gave this very openly at the meeting, was a commitment to deal with Saddam. Now,
So
we could
you
deal
were
with
at
it.
one that you had to deal with...
Absolutely. And that wasn't a private commitment, that was a public commitment.
So you were agreed on the end, but not on the means?
We were agreed on both, actually, as it came to finally, but we were agreed that we had to confront this issue, that Saddam had to come back into compliance with the international community. And as I think I said in the press conference with President Bush, the method of doing that is open. Now, I would take government right out of this altogether. I would simply have published, if the intelligence services had been willing, for the JIC assessments, because they were absolutely strong enough on their own. This executive summary wasn't drawn up by me. It was drawn up by the Joint Intelligence Committee, and they did it perfectly justifiably on the information they had before them. It's hard to come to any other conclusion than that this person has a continuing WMD program.
Anything he says, I don't think it's made us any difference towards him either. No.
Did it make you angrier?
It made me angry sitting in the room seeing there when his head was to the back to us and we couldn't actually see his face apart from on the screen. And we wrote him a letter asking to meet with us after.
Yeah, what happened to that?
We've had no answer back.
I don't believe that anything will come of it, so it's just a bit of a waste of time. You know, the intentions might be good, but Tony Blair isn't going to be brought to book for anything at all.
Peter was quite rightly saying to us, these are my concerns, this is why I don't think 1441 in itself is enough. Now, we had begun military preparations even before we got the first resolution, the 1441 resolution. We had to do that, otherwise we'd never have been in a position to take military action. But let me make it absolutely clear. If Peter, in the end, had said, this cannot be justified lawfully, we would have been unable to take action. He gave legal advice, he gave an opinion saying, look, there is this argument against it, there is this argument for it, I think a reasonable case can be made. And obviously we then had to have a definitive decision. And that decision is, yes, it is lawful to do this or not.
And a huge amount hung on that decision.
Of course it did. A lot hung on that decision. And it was therefore extremely important that it was done by the Attorney General. 1441, the whole spirit of it was, we've been through 10 years of Saddam Hussein breaching UN resolutions. We finally decided he's going to be given one last chance. This is the moment when if he takes that chance, there's no conflict, we resolve the matter. But if he doesn't take that chance and starts messing around again, as he started to do, then that's it. If we knew then what we know now, I mean, we would, of course, do things very differently. On the other hand, for what we thought we were going to have, we had planned for it, and we actually met those eventualities. If you're going to go into a situation like this, you've got to go in as nation builders, and you've got to go in with a configuration of the political and the civilian and the military that is right for a failed state situation. Now, it doesn't mean to say that you don't do it, but you need to be prepared for it. I was more involved at the level, if you like, of, say, for example, in September 2003, they asked for additional forces, and I was keen to get them going. I don't think the issues to do with urgent operational requirements really came to me.
Or the fact that the urgent operational requirements were diverting funds away under the Strategic Defence Review system.
I think if anybody had come to me and said, look, there's a there's an issue and a problem here, and we were having ongoing discussions about the defence budget and so on and so forth within government. If someone had come to me and said, I think this is a real problem, we've got to deal with it, I would have been straight in there trying to sort it out. But I wasn't aware of that particular issue coming across my desk. We focused very much on what we would find and how we would deal with it. And also, there was, of course, I mean, I raised this issue myself several times, how would the Sunni-Shia relationship work out? And that was going to be a major part of the problem. You had basically three groups. You had the Kurds up in the north, you had the Sunni, and then down the south it was predominantly Shia. I had to take this decision as Prime Minister, and it was a huge responsibility then, and there's not a single day that passes by that I don't reflect and think about that responsibility, and so I should. But I genuinely believe that if we had left Saddam in power, even with what we know now, we would still have had to have dealt with him, possibly in circumstances where the threat was worse. In the end, it was divisive, and I'm sorry about that. And I tried my level best to bring people back together again. But if I'm asked whether I believe we are safer, more secure, that Iraq is better, but our own security is better, with Saddam and his two sons out of power and out of office than in office, I believe indeed that we are.
And no regrets?
Responsibility, but not a regret for removing Saddam Hussein. I think he was
Be quiet, please.
I think that he was a monster. I believe he threatened not just the region, but the world. And in the circumstances that we faced then, but I think even if you look back now, it was better to deal with this threat, to deal with it, to remove him from office. And I do genuinely believe that the world is safer as a result.
For the most part, what he had to say, I think we already knew. Obviously, we got a bit more information about the internal workings of how the cabinet operates and government operates. But at the end of the day, it hasn't really taken me any further forward, and I don't feel that it's not going to make me feel any better.